Right then, Brentford have just been promoted to the Premier League, and there's going to be a lot of people looking at the different things that Brentford have done sensationally well. Now, there was a thread on Twitter from Joe Pampliano, which was brilliant reading that I've really enjoyed this week, and it gave me the idea to do a video sort of exploring what Brentford have done so well. And one of the things that they've done is essentially they've turned £700,000 into as a project into something worth in excess of 300 million. And if they stay for a second season in the Premier League after this first season on the back of getting promoted, it'll be ended up worth something in the region of about 400 million. So the guy behind the project at Brentford, and it's not just here's what Brentford have done. There's a lot I think Manchester United can learn, and there's a lot of parallels to draw with things that have happened, and there's some really interesting stuff to compare with Manchester United. So stay tuned for that. Right, so Matthew Benham is the guy that's behind this, and he's a professional sports gambler, apparently. He is the owner of Brentford. He's also the owner of FC Midtjylland. Now, he's used analytics to turn this 700 grand loan into essentially something worth 300 million pound. Now, he's always been a lifelong Brentford fan. His first game was when he was 11 years of age, and when the club faced financial trouble back in 2007, he stepped up and provided a £700,000 loan. That's where the figure comes from, so that Brentford supporters could actually buy the team. Now, as part of that loan, he said he had the option to buy the club should the supporters choose not to repay the loan. And in 2012, the fans declined to repay the loan, and he became the owner of Brentford. This is when he introduced the Moneyball thing. So you might have seen the film with Brad Pitt about what happened in baseball, and he's basically tried to do the same thing with both Brentford and also with FC Midtjylland. Now, he'd already spent around about 10 million turning FC Midtjylland into the club that could do what it did in European football, which some people might say is not impressive, but from where it started, it bloody well is. And he used that to sort of test his analytical theories and his concepts, and the ideas that worked for him he kept, and he used at Brentford. Now, one of the main concepts that he did at Brentford was, very interestingly, from an owner's perspective, he stopped caring about wins and losses. And he really started to look into other methods that sort of give a key performance indicator on how well the team was actually playing and performing. And one of the things that they looked into in a big way was expected goals, rather than exactly how many goals the players or the team were scoring. And Brentford's dramatic rise up through the ranks has been proved to be successful on a number of different levels, and one of the most surprising ones for me is for someone that's looking to use young players and someone that's looking to turn to young players to be able to grow your own players organically, because transfers are the biggest waste in football. I think that you could organically grow a better squad by investing what you would spend on maybe one player into your academy and coaching setup and scouting network. And I'm surprised that more clubs haven't looked at the value. When players are going for £200 million, and it's still a 50-50 whether that player will be a success or not at your football club, someone just go, how about we don't spend £200 million and we try and find our own way of creating £200 million worth of talent? That's got to be a better business model, I think. And that's kind of what Brentford have done. So one of the weird things that they did was they eliminated their academy and they created essentially a B team. So they're not growing their own players technically organically, but what they are doing is they're finding 17 to 20-year-olds and they're turning them into a B team. And these are clubs discarded players. So they're putting them together, they're finding all these players that have been discarded and they're sticking them into a B team and they're seeing what these lads can do. Now, one of the things that's worked for these is they don't believe that, and I definitely agree on this, and I'd even go a step further, but this is obviously the minimum. I say I think you don't really know what someone's going to be until they've played 100 games. They're saying you need at least 35 games before determining someone's value. Most rich, powerful clubs do not have the resources, or more importantly, the patience to be able to give any young player 35 games in the first team to be able to figure out whether they're good enough or not. Now, that's what Brentford have started to do. They've started to bring players in, give them those opportunities, and find out, are they actually any good? Or are they maybe, were Chelsea right in getting rid of this guy at 17? Now, because Brentford have done this, it's allowed them to find very undervalued players, or they call it market inefficiencies. So these players are going to come in, they're going to perform well, and they're going to be sold for a lot of profit, quite often 10 times the amount that they paid for them. Some examples. So Said Benrahma, he was bought from Nice for 1.53 million and he was sold to West Ham for 25.75 million. Massive flip on that one. Ollie Watkins, they bought him from Exeter for 6 million and they sold him to Aston Villa for 30 million. Big flip. Neil Maupay bought from Saint Etienne for 1.8 million, sold to Brighton for 20 million. Now, when Benham first got involved in Brentford with his 700 grand back in 2007, they finished the 07-08 season in 14th place in League Two. That meant they finished 82nd out of the 92 professional clubs in England. Now, that was the year Manchester United finished top of that, number 1 out of 92. We also was the number 1 team in Europe. Now, from there, Manchester United have slowly kind of declined. Suddenly at times, but it's been a slow decline to be, let's be honest, around about the 4th or 5th best team in the country. In that time, Brentford have gone from 82nd of 92, basically bottom half of the bottom professional division, pretty much where Salford are, to now being in the same league as Manchester United. At least, literally. You could argue that there's still leagues within the Premier League, but they are literally in the same league now as Manchester United, going from where Salford was just 13 years ago. Technically, 23 of 92. Massive rise. Now, it took a lot of patience. Their finishes since that season have been, they came first in League Two. So after finishing 14th, they came first the following season. And then they came 9th, 11th and 9th in League One. And you might notice a pattern there and also in the second. Then they came third in League One and lost in the playoffs. And then they came second in League One and got promoted automatically. They landed in the Championship, went straight up to 5th, shocked everybody. And then they settled again, 9th, 10th, 9th, 11th in the Championship. Just bobbed around, settling. Now, some of the reason for this meteoric rise and then a little bit of a settle is being a club like Brentford, you get a lot of your better players picked off. And then it takes that time to find the players that are good enough to be able to take you up to that next level, to figure out where those inefficiencies lie again and build your squad up again. And then they came third in the Championship last season and they lost in the playoff. And then this year they came third and won in the playoff final, becoming a Premier League team. And I think that this is a very smart and efficient way to run a football club. It's not for profit margins. It's for on-field success. They are now a Premier League football club. And for the first time after winning the playoff final last week, they have completed the ascent in just 13 years from the 4th tier of English football all the way to the Premier League. Now, I honestly believe this organic way of doing this is something that if Manchester United aren't looking at, they are doing themselves a disservice. And if we aren't doing it, why aren't we doing it? Now, you can say, oh, these things don't work for this, that, and the other. It was proven with the Moneyball thing with Midtjylland. They did it and they competed way above their pay and they exceeded all the different expectations. Brentford have done it. The budget that Brentford operate on versus the rest of the Championship, they've massively exceeded it. It's not about the size of the club you are. It's about exceeding your expectations, exceeding what your wage budget is, exceeding what your reputation is. And now for Manchester United, exceeding all of those things would be winning back-to-back titles in Champions Leagues. I get that's a lot more difficult than what Brentford are doing. But right now, we're probably underperforming our wage budget, and we're underperforming in a couple of other areas. And we're certainly not an efficient football club where you think that there's this master grand plan for 15 years in there. Now, I don't know if Benham ever said to anybody, yeah, listen, in 15 years' time, we're going to be a Premier League football club. I don't know if that's something that he's ever come out and said. But for me, Manchester United just seemingly don't have a plan from one year to the next. It took the Glazers 15 years to appoint a director of football. All right, it took them really 8 because Sir Alex Ferguson was effectively a director of football when he was at Manchester United. But it's taken us all of that time to be able to find someone that does what Sir Alex Ferguson did as that director of football. He was the manager, but he was also basically the guy that was running the football club. So the fact that it's taken this amount of time, and Sir Alex Ferguson was on a 1 year rolling contract. Why? Because it's not like Fergie would have been upset at people being interviewed and lined up. But why, for the last 5 years of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, when he was on these 1 year rolling contracts, I mean, he was on a 1 year rolling contract since about 2002. So why did Manchester United not have a live list of a top 5 of interviewed managers? And as soon as someone becomes flavour of the month, a Nagelsmann, or even a Pochettino around the time Sir Alex was looking to retire, because I know a lot of you like that guy, or a Tuchel, or even a Pep Guardiola, why were they not interviewed for this position? Look, Sir Alex, you don't have to say, look, he's going next year. You just have to say, listen, at one point, Sir Alex Ferguson is going to retire and we're building a shortlist of managers to replace him. We would like you to interview for that position. Would you be interested in creating a presentation for what you would do with Manchester United? Some managers said, no, thanks, I'm happy in the job that I'm in and I don't want to put that sort of work in on top of the job that I'm already doing for this club. Thank you very much. Maybe call me the day that he's announced his retirement. But there was no indication that someone at Manchester United was doing that. There was no indication that anybody at Manchester United was putting those sorts of things into play. There was no indication that anyone at Manchester United is trying to find not just what Brentford do, but what the likes of Leicester have done lately. The Mahrez, the Vardis, the Kante signings, they're phenomenal. But also, Tielemans was offered everybody. You know, Soyuncu was available to everybody to buy. There's some really good players playing football in the Premier League that would have been on United's radar that we've just chosen not to sign. Now, obviously, it sounds like we went in for Bellingham, and that might have been something that we regret later down the line, as he's going to end up being a smashing player. We probably wasn't given the option to sign Sancho directly from Manchester City, which I understand. But it seems more often than not that United are missing out on these players, and maybe Diallo bucks the trend of that. But the guy was £30-odd million. This isn't like someone that you picked up like they did for Ollie Watkins for 6, or Maupai for 1.8, or Benrahma for 1.5 million. These are genuine bargains. United are putting money into transfers that, you know, we've got £600 or £700 million worth of debt on the club still. Even from a pure business perspective, which a football club shouldn't exist to do. But from a pure business perspective, why haven't the Glazers invested into someone that can flip players? Because look, 10x in the value. You tell me when Manchester United made a profit on a player in the last 10 years. I don't even think it's happened. When people leave United, they go in a fire sale sort of price. And you might be able to think of one example. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But it's not the done thing, is it? When people leave Manchester United, United are having to discount them and get them out the door because of the wages that they're on. Manchester United are inefficiently run. And I think we could learn a hell of a lot from Brentford.